Whew. You know, back at it again in the backyard for another lovely episode of Whiskey in the Wild. And as always, it's as wild as I can get. So, it's wild, backyard wildness. How about that? It's been a little tricky for me to get my personal life and have time to get into the real wilds, but hopefully soon we will be drinking whiskey in the actual woods soon. Alright. Today, we're diving back into Canadian whiskey. I do like my scotch. But I also like Canadian whiskey. I like a good rye. So after that, Glenn and Evan decided to bring it back to Ontario in the form of Barnburner. Handcrafted Ontario whiskey. Not too much information on the label. 41.6%. Not chill filtered. Maverick Distillery. Oh, double aged in oak barrels. Oak bourbon. Bourbon oak. Yeah, double aged in bourbon oak. Now, double aged, I don't know if that means like they've aged it once in a first fill or aged it again in a second fill. I'm assuming that double aged means that it's double the aging process. So with Canadian whiskey, I'm fairly certain it's by law it has to be aged for 3 years to be Canadian whiskey, and so if they're
double aging it, as the label says,
then it's probably 6 years. And I'd rather put, if I were making whiskey, I'd rather put double aged on my whiskey than 6-year whiskey. It's probably not a 24-year whiskey. Let's be honest about that. All right. The company's only been around apparently since 2009, so I think it's a 24-year. It's probably 6. But that's no harm, no foul. You know, I've had younger whiskeys that are better than older whiskeys, so like I said, no harm, no foul. Got the old trusty tasting glass here. And it's not a whiskey tasting glass, but it's a tasting glass for something. I will eventually get around to finding a Glencairn. I don't want to just order one online. I want to like find one for real, like in some far-flung antique shop, like how I found this guy. And the other travel glass that hasn't made an appearance as of late, but it will again someday. The one that came around with Altmore. Should I pour more? I should pour more in there. Let's pour more in there. Pour some more. There we go. Got some more pour. Okay. Glug glug. Let's go. I didn't get that too dirty. Right. So, we got Maverick Distillery. Oh, they're from Oakville. They're just up the road. Yeah, nice. Oh, technically up the road. I mean, I could take a bus there. Give me a day, I could walk there. Okay. Ooh. Okay. Yeah. Nice. Yes. It's definitely coming across more rye forward. Let's see if that mellows out any. Okay, it's melting out a bit. Some sweetness coming through. It's definitely imparted from the oak casks, the bourbon oak. It's quite nice. Hmm. It's very strong rye forward. There is that candied red heart sweetness in there. It's not bad. Hmm. Yeah. The alcohol note is predominantly peppery, which blends really well with that forward rye grain. But it does come across slightly boozy. It's on the peppery side with a little bit of boozy on the alcohol note. It's definitely rye grain forward. There might be a corn blend in there. It might the sweetness of the corn might be from grain blended in, might be from the bourbon oak casks. But it does smell predominantly of rye grain. It's quite nice. The oak, it's more on that bourbon oak side, so it's sharp and peppery. Oh, okay. Neighbors, cheers to the neighbors. All right, let's give it a sip. Mm. And then a second sip. Sure. Okay. Wow. Yeah. Let's see what I got here. Locally sourced distilled, not filtered. Barnburner. Okay. Don't go out of their way to say single grain, so I'm going to assume that it isn't, and that whatever grain is mixed in with the rye is probably going to be corn, which is not a problem, but more corn to blend with the bourbon barrel aging, which is coming around quite nice. Mm. Mm. So with that rye profile, it really comes through. Wow, I mean, trying a lot of rye lately. I mean, the thing about rye is that it's hard to give it variation. You know, when you hit that like 80, 90% rye grain in a blend, it really starts to just kind of taste the same. So what these companies will do differently is the barreling. Like Dylan's Three Oaks is aged in three different types of oak: New American oak, New Ontario oak, and First Fill bourbon. Lot 40 cask strength is aged, if I'm not mistaken, in a European wine cask, and then like Glenn and which is another video I've done recently, is aged in oak and bourbon oak. I believe it's second fill, but don't quote me on that. That's just what I'm thinking. So with the rye grain variate with the like, there's not a lot of variation you can get out of the rye, at least in my opinion. So the variation is in the barreling and the slight bit of blending grains, either whether it's like wheat or corn. You'll get different bits, but when you're shooting that, you know, full 100% rye grain, it's kind of the same. So if you tried one full grain rye, I hate to say it, but you gotta try them all. It's not like other types. It's not like it's certainly not like other types of grain like barley. Well, barley can vary greatly depending on how it's treated and produced. Wheat's kind of I don't really taste anything with wheat grain. But rye is almost always spicy. Or almost always. It is always spicy. And so, but since the grain makes everything kind of so similar, the distiller has to put a little bit of extra work in to make their stuff stand out. And stuff stands on its own. Yep. It's a little bit boozy. That's about it. It's a nice, bold, spicy, forward rye grain Canadian whiskey, possibly blended with a little bit of corn for sweetness. Well selected casks. Certainly seems to be a first fill. It doesn't have that cheap, woody, pencily kind of flavor you get from second or third fill bourbon casks. So that's nice. That first, if it is first fill, and I'm assuming it's first fill, it's imparting like a cinnamon hearts candy sweetness to a very spicy rye grain. But texturally, it's nice and dry. It is not leaving heavy gobs of sweetness. Which is my code for heavy gobs of sweetness, is my code for a mouthful of spit. Which I don't really enjoy that much. I mean, when you're trying to sip and enjoy whiskey, you don't want to have to keep salivating like a salivation. Like, you don't want to have like a big syrupy gob in your jaw when you're trying to enjoy a sip of whiskey, So, in spite of the sweetness from the bourbon casks, it is relatively dry. It's not bad. I'd say it's relatively dry. It's not like dry, like cask strength dry. But if it were cask strength, it'd pack a hell of a kick. Let's see, what is it? It says here 41.6% alcohol. Yes, they went with that extra little bit. I think that's maybe where that booziness comes from. The extra 1.6%. They could have refined. They could have brought it down to 40%. Maybe it wouldn't taste it so slightly boozy on the alcohol note. I mean, the alcohol note itself is primarily peppery, but it finishes kind of boozy. Might have swallowed a fly. It happens. Flies like whiskey. Can you blame them? No. Okay. Well, let's do a shot here. You can rinse that up before it came outside. Pour that in there. So, given that it's another rye forward Canadian whiskey, aged in bourbon oak, when we do the old shooter up, probably going to taste like a Ryan Coke again. But we'll see. So it's a Red Can brand, just in case, occurred to me I may have to be a little bit more discreet with the Red Can brand nameless cola. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Just in case, right? You never know. So here we go. We got the Red Can brand nameless cola and a shot of Barnburner whiskey by Maverick. Ah, woo. Actually, that wasn't that good. I mean, it was, well, let me rephrase that. Because before I went into that, I was saying, hey, it's going to be like a Ryan Coke. Right on your mouth. And that was not. That was like, washing down a shot of whiskey. Like with the Glen and Evan, that was like an instant Ryan Coke right in your mouth. Not with this stuff. I was expecting that with this stuff, but it didn't go down like that. It went down like chasing a very smooth whiskey with a tasty Red Can cola beverage brand, nameless cola brand, whiskey brand, cola. Yeah. But it wasn't not good. It was good. It was just not what I had expected. So it was good. It was actually quite nice. Like I said, it was like chasing it was like, at first the shot was kind of rough, but then when the Red brand can cola, nameless cola, came through, it made it just completely disappear, and all I could taste was nameless cola and like nothing else. So yeah, that was all right. Yeah, not what I expected, but it was still all right. All right. All right. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoy. Stay warm and frosty out there.